Uno, va. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our panel Festivals and Biennials in times of COVID-19. What we're trying to achieve through this encounter is gather voices and ideas to try to discuss and see solutions that different events, massive cultural events all over the world have find to face this public health crisis. We're going to have Mariana Aymerich, the General Director of the Festival Cervantino in Guanajuato. We're also going to have Naomi Campbell, the Artistic Director of the Luminato Festival in Toronto. After that, we're going to have Andrea, Giunta, the Chief Curator of the Mercosul Biennial in Porto Alegre, Brazil. And then Mariana Pestana, the Curator of the 5th Istanbul Design Biennial. So we are hosting this event along with my colleague Sebastián Zubieta, the Director of Music at the American Society. We're very glad to have you in our audiences. Thank you so much, and to have these fantastic panelists among us. And the first question that we wanted to do, a very basic one, but just to open the conversation, is trying to see, how were your events affected by the crisis, and how did you decide to overcome these difficulties coming up? So I don't know if you can start, Mariana Aymerich.
Of course. Thank you very much to having me in this panel. It's a honor. It's a great honor to have to be here with all these colleagues in this panel. Well, of course, this crisis has affected significantly all the events that we plan, the biggest events in my country. And as well as festivals, of course. We are facing an uncertainty and a quiet enemy that we don't know how much is going to be with us. That enemy is to plan accurately our events. In our case of the Festival Cervantino, the festival is in October, so we do not know now how the pattern of the virus will be in the next month. So in my case, we are working in different possibilities to be prepared. And when the time comes to make decisions, make the better decisions. But we have to wait, because now we are in the top of the pandemic in Mexico, and our reality in Mexico City and the reality in Guanajuato, where we do the festival, it's differently. It's completely differently, because we have to share our decisions with the government in Guanajuato, and we have to wait to make that decisions. Of course, it affects, of course, us all around the world, but we are working to different possibilities and be prepared for the time. So we are working in the process. We are in touch, of course, with all the authorities in Mexico and in Guanajuato, but we have to wait. That is the thing that I can say in this question, and it's for me it's better to have all these experiences in the panel, because we can share some experiences with you, and you can share with us that experiences, and it's very nice to have you, and I think it's that is what I can say in this question. Thank you very much.
So Naomi, what's up in the north? You're muted.
Oh, I tried to unmute and everything. I was feeling so responsible. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. It's a real pleasure and an honor as well. So our festival regularly happens in June. So when everything, and our dates for this year were June 11th to the 28th. So when we left our offices on March 16th, 17th is when we moved out of our offices and moved our operations home. And over the next sort of 10, 12 days determined what we would do. And before people were still in, do we cancel, do we not cancel kind of mode. But on March 26th, we announced that we had canceled this year's festival. So that, we met with all of the artists and our partners and stakeholders and did that. And then all the while sort of considering whether or not we would do a digital version or not. And we decided that we would. And so, in fact, today our program goes public. This is very timely. Our program for a digital event goes live today. We'll be presenting works on June 11th, 12th, and 13th. So starting on the same day that we would have originally, but obviously with less programming and a different kind of programming. Some shows that would have been in this year's festival, actually some shows from the past, things that were that we had really fine recordings of and that were beautiful, timely works, and then some things that will be in next year's festival, and a couple of things that were made especially for this year's festival by artists who were going to be in this year's festival, but we're not presenting the actual original work that they were going to do because everything has to be shorter and different. And as far as next year is concerned, we're just we're still aiming for something in June, but with the knowledge that, of course, we have to plan 2 or 3 different kinds of festivals. Like there's the baseline of what we can do with social distancing and outdoors and free. And then there's what do we layer upon that and when can we make those decisions? So, yeah.
We'll right on time and announce it today.
Yes.
So, Andrea, the same question for you. What happened with the Mercosul?
We're ready. Thank you first for this invitation and to put together this group of organizers of these big events that we don't know if it will be happening as we used to know them in the future. What happened with us? Well, on March 13, we did the decision that the Biennial will not be opening on April 16, that it was the planned day for the opening. We have to really take care of artists that were developing site-specific projects to return them to the country, of them in Africa, to stop trips that were planned for Sunday, the upcoming Sunday, and to announce, but we didn't have time at this point. We had to solve many issues. Then we didn't have time at this moment to make a plan, a second plan. The only thing was to stop what was happening during the following month. Doing that, we were following the indications of health Minister of Rio Grande do Sul, and everything was closing down. And then we didn't make a decision to move into digital. The first decision we did was, or more than the decision, our first interest was to know where were the artists, how it was in terms of health, security, they belong people, more an affective question than a pragmatical question. And then we proposed for who wanted to do it to record a short film. Then this was the first appearance of the Biennial online, that it was these testimonies, 1 minute, 1 minute and a half, a film with a cell phone, and being in touch, making contact again. Then we didn't move definitely online because we still think that in October probably we will be able to open a smaller version of the Biennial, of course, because many specific projects we are not sure that it will be possible to develop, because we are not sure if it will be possible to travel, and there were artists coming from different parts of the world. We don't know about this scenario. And then, well, the decision was to move toward an online version of the Biennial that, of course, is not the same. We didn't conceive the platform, the online platform in the way that it is today, then we were really doing a lot of research, and I was learning a lot during these 2-3 months, doing research about online initiatives and well, doing a lot of research about that. Then we were designing the platform during this time. Today, for example, we uploaded the journal, that it was considered in a very different way because it was a preliminary journal for being distributed for free between the audience attending to the Biennial. Now it's an online version. We question very much whatever that has to do with printing materials. We were working together on a diagnostic of how the world of art is also part of the world in which we are living now. Then the design, the idea of the journal changed for this online version that probably will be printed, but in a very short edition, just for covering institutional needs and not a big printed material, because we think that we can talk later about how we position in the present time of crisis, no? But yes, with modify our project, it's not the same project, of course, that we were conceiving for the exhibition space. No?
Thank you. And Mariana, same question. Did you move?
Hi. Yes. Well, like everyone else, this situation has meant for us, for my team, and for the central team, working at the Biennial as an institution, it has meant a lot of flexibility. Because I think what's particular about this situation is that we could never at any point see how it was going to develop, even in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And that has meant that we have had to constantly reassess the situation and kind of respond and plan sort of multiple scenarios for the realities that were being presented to us. So I believe that this has been, that plus the social isolation that so many of us have had to endure, I think has put an added element of stress and effort to the team. So I'm, deeply thankful to everyone that I'm working with for their efforts. I think, thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. Aimé and Sebastián, and it's really a pleasure. I mean, it's great to be able to discuss this with other colleagues in similar situations. But I think that the challenge that we are facing, at least the way that we are taking it, and it could be because we are a design biennial. So, designers love problems in a way. And so we are, in a way, we've looked at this challenge and we've tried to also understand constantly what opportunities also were being presented to us, both because of course, I think we are going to talk about this, but biennials and festivals have a lot of problems, we could say, to do with the environmental problems, to do with the amount of travel, of transport that that has become the norm of making these things. So I guess we've been discussing a lot internally, how can we work with a different model than that one, and then also because the theme of our biennial this year is empathy revisited. So empathy being a term invented at the turn of the 20th century to describe a transference of feeling between humans and things, and so.
given that this is our theme, and of course we're thinking of empathy between humans, but also between humans and the more than human, I think the world post-COVID will be a world that needs empathy, that needs care and tenderness, as I heard yesterday in a kind of similar panel. So we've been looking at these challenges and trying to think creatively also how we can adapt and respond to the world, hopefully in a kind of post-COVID situation, which is in the autumn this year. Let's see if that is really a post-COVID world or not. We have no idea, but that's our current thinking in a way in response to your question.
Right, thank you. So the next question that we have, it goes after this. So you decided to move or not? We're thinking. In Mariana, in the Cervantino's case, you haven't decided yet. But I wanted to ask those of you who have moved online, starting with Naomi, you touched a bit when you described what you're doing, but how did you manage the transition? Did you create new things? Did you put up things that were already there? Did you ask people to do new things? Did you pay? That's the question. So how did you transfer? Mm-hmm. Did you do things that just made for that, or did you adapt?
A combination of things, actually, of all of that, really. The large pieces that we've placed into the festival were there's a couple of large pieces that we had presented in the past that were big. The biggest piece that we had ever created was Apocalypsis, which has almost 1,000. There you go, 1,000 musicians in it, and we did a stage version of that, and then we did a beautiful recording, a full, like the Canadian Broadcasting Company recorded it, and there's a CD. So we're going to represent that with slides from the show, and actually with some of the score as well, because it's a really beautiful piece of art as well. And then accompanying that, though, is a short film that has been made in anticipation of another project that we will do in a couple of years about Schaeffer, called Schaeffer's Labyrinth, which will end up being a presentation of the 13 string quartets, but in a cinematic environment that's been created by Barbara Willis-Sweet, who's a filmmaker here who's worked with Marie a lot over the years. So there's a new thing and an old thing together, and the new thing is actually a future project. And then there are other shows that we're sharing two pieces of programming with there's a festival out of Kingston, Ontario, called the Festival of Live Digital Art, FOLDA, and there's one piece that they were going to always do a panel discussion that related to a show that we were going to present in full called Seasick, and that's a piece by a science journalist, Alana Mitchell, and it's about the oceans. Now she's the piece, which was supposed to run in April at the National Theatre in London, England, and then come triumphantly returning to Toronto, where it originated 5 years ago. It was supposed to come here and run in the festival. Now she feels like that piece is no longer really as relevant as it was, because it actually, at the end of the piece, it asks the question, how do we change the habits of the world around the climate crisis? Well, with the pandemic, we've recognized that we may not have all the answers, but we have the capacity to change our habits really quickly if we have to. And so what she's done is creating the beginnings of a new piece called Field Notes from the Future, which is taking some of the ideas that were in Seasick, extrapolating on those, talking to economists and scientists, and we'll be streaming that live with FOLDA where before we were just going to do a panel conversation with them. And so we've adapted, and she's actually adapting the work, and maybe a couple of years from now this piece will exist as a full piece. So we've also commissioned some tiny works, like 15, 20 minutes long, by artists who were already going to be in the festival, but who had much, larger shows. And because we couldn't actually show their work as it was supposed to be, we've asked them to make, like, I don't know if you know the opera singer Misha Berger-Gossman, Canadian soprano. She's making a piece in her house called "The Singing Salmon," an edible she's going to cook and sing together in her house. So, and I haven't seen that. I don't know what it's going to be like. It's going to be amazing. She's a wonderful, like she's a great personality as well as a magnificent singer. So there's a whole bunch of different things. And then we're sort of ending up with like, we had a late night venue. And so the DJs and performers and burlesque performers who were going to be at that, a number of them, not all of them, but we'll be doing on the Friday and the Saturday night, the 12th and 13th of June, we'll be doing late night parties. And there'll be a combination of Zoom parties and like just watching parties. So you can either go in and be more inside it, or you can just watch through the portal. So it was, in consultation with the artists, in consultation with our team. I mean, we were just about to launch the full festival. We didn't ever get to announce that, that was hard, I think, for everybody, sort of anticlimactic. But we've really come up with something, I think, that is a great, I was going to say compromise, but I don't want to call it a compromise. It's an adaptation. It's something else. Won't have the same feel, but it'll have another feel, and hopefully it'll have some of the energy and the Toronto-ness. I think we're really concentrating on work that's, not all of it, but stuff that speaks to the city a little bit, speaks Canadian, like gives the Canadian context, because in some ways we have a way bigger reach than we would ever have. Not like so many more people can come and see the work than would have come to Toronto in June. I mean, lots of people do come here, but so that's an exciting part of it. And just to finish, I think what we're also looking at this as a rehearsal, as an experiment, as a testing of how to do the digital component well, because I think that no matter what, going forward, we're going to have a more robust digital component, partly as a kind of, safety net, but also because I think audiences' desires and, habits are going to be changed by this time. And so we'll serve that in some way. Next year, there'll be a bigger digital part than there would have been before.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. The world will be different. We'll talk about that later. So same question for Andrea. You mentioned some of the artists. So can you elaborate a bit on if they did new work or you repurposed for what you're presenting online?
Well, no, the artists we were not requesting new works. It was just these testimonies that at this moment is an incredible archive of affections, which is a word that is also in the title of the Biennial. No? Then for us, it was like this word of different meaning. And the urgency, I have to say that we as a team at the Biennial and myself, we are very critical about the state of art. State of art that we lived before the pandemic happened. Personally, I was very in a critical moment myself about the spectacularity of the work of art, about exhibition, about how much the work of art reflects the concentration of capital, the amount of money that is moved for moving a work of art that is completely different than the retribution that people that works at the museum receive, curators receive, artists receive. Usually artists are, I don't know, it's a question we are doing. What are the economical support for artists? No? Then I think that it's a good moment for questioning any kind of normality. We have to go back. I don't know what means normality. I don't have any confidence, any excitation, any enjoyment. Particularly for me as a responsible of the team, the primary issue was, well, to know how they were, how it was the community that was taking part, that it was planning to meet at the Biennial in 1 month, and this will not happen. And to reflect critically about the responsibility also in terms of the situation of the work, in terms of ecosystems. We are part of the crisis in which the world is at this point. We are printing a lot of materials that we don't know why we are printing. We are paying insurance, transportation, taking care of the works of art much better than of the community, the people that take part on the work of art, and not taking care at all about ecological issues. We are taking care through the themes, but not through the dynamic of the work of art. And we are part of the situation, the state of emergency in which the world is now. Then we are much more concerned about affections of people involved, how to sustain the team for not to lose their work, and this more, if you want, humanitarian issues or affective issues than any kind of notion that has to do with efficiency or adaptation or success or execution. Then I am full of doubt about the future. I can't say, I don't want to talk from the position of someone that has a vision about the future. I don't have a vision. I am very skeptic. And I hope that we are not going back to the state of the world we live. I think that the question should be also if we want to go back to the state of the world that we lived 2 or 3 months ago. I think that this is a question that I personally want to do now, instead of describing how successful we were for adapting to the new circumstances. And of course, the platform online is the only available space we have now. It's not a desirable space. I don't think that in terms of experience, it's better. I don't think that it will replace something that happened in exhibition spaces where you have physically the works and you can see the contact zones between the prismatic, poetic condition of each work. If this is something that you can't see online, then it's not a desirable scenario. Then, well, we are at this point on this. I hope, really, that the biennial system, as it was when all this critical moment began, is not coming back. I think that we have to analyze critically and to reflect on what was happening with us as part of this world of art also, no? Then this is what I can say. I think that maybe it.
Well, while we figure that, I think it's better now. I think it was behind your ear, but let me put the same question to the next panelist, and then we can figure that out. So, Mariana, so we have the two Marianas now. So, Mariana Pestana, if yes, when you moved, did it change, and how, or if you had? Hello, Mariana. Oh, we lost Mariana. So let me put the question to Mariana Aymerich. We know that Cervantino hasn't decided to cancel, but perhaps there's something. If you were to cancel, if you were to move online, would your approach be a combination of old and new, of adapting things that happen, or would you, since you have time, let's say you decide, I'm not saying that you will, if you decide that things will move in the next few months, will you ask artists to do something different? Will you try to repackage what you have?
I agree with Andrea. I mean, I think that is to it's to summon people, no? The naturality of the festivals of the or the biennials, it's to summon people. I absolutely agree with Andrea. It's not the same, but in the case of the Cervantino, of course, we are thinking in a mixture of virtual performances and with performances with audience. Of course, we are thinking in many scenarios about how we are going to be in October. and how we will present the festival and international artists in Guanajuato. It has to be a mixture. I think we are not sure that how it's going to be the pandemic on that date, but we are facing on a global scale a moment where we definitely have to reshape our way to do things and to innovate in terms of shows and performances. This includes also the way what we execute festivals. I'm sorry. I think that artists, venues, and cultural institutions will have to look for different ways to present their projects in order to guarantee the continuity. But in this case, right now, we are working in these different scenarios. We will see, because we don't know if an artist from Spain or from Australia will be able to come. We don't know. So we are waiting a few weeks, I hope, to make these decisions and to be how is the pandemic in Mexico, because as I said, Guanajuato is one reality and Mexico City is another reality. So we have to wait, but definitely we have, as an institution, we have to think in many scenarios and many forms to present the festivals and this kind of events.
Thank you. Now, finally, so the same question for Mariana Pestana. When you moved, did you modify? Did you reuse? And we lost you. You're back? No, we don't. We can't hear you. Oh, I think we lost your audio, Mariana. Oh. Okay.
Talking about the problems of the online system.
Right. Yes, exactly. So Aimé, if you want to pose the next question for the panel.
Sure. We can go to the next question. Don't worry, Mariana. Meanwhile, we can try to solve this technically, and you can include your answer in the next answer. So, I mean, our next question in part was already responded by Andrea, but I would like all of you, and especially those of you who come from other disciplines and not visual arts, comment on this. To which degree this crisis makes us have to, rethink, and what can we rethink about the existing system of international festivals and biennials, and how it was associated with the tourist industry, and how do you think that might change, and what does it say about the way we were living until now? So Mariana, Aymerich, I don't know if you want to comment about that.
Thank you very much, Aimé. I think as I said, the festivals summon people to present an extraordinary event in an extraordinary place and time. No, I refuse to think that this will change and that the virus will take this from us, because we will lose the feeling that performing arts provoke in stages. We need to think in many ways to show in the performing arts, but without losing that sense and their sense that you feel it in presence, in essence, in stages. So all the festivals, and especially those who have international programming, seek to show to the audiences what it is new in terms of an avant-garde, or especially in the performing arts or literature or visual arts, I think, even though new technologies help us to bring people together, in different ways and bring us closer to the scenic event. We cannot let this keep us away from those feelings, that make us that feelings in the live performances or being in the front of a work of art, definitely. But definitely, I think that technology complements, but in knowing the way that replaces reality. Of course, we have to rethink all these these things. We have to rethink how to communicate and to have this relation with the audience or with the authorities. So I think that the international festivals and biennials has to modify their presentations, but not to change at all. I mean, I don't know if I'm clear, but I think this is the most important thing, that we cannot allow to change all this at all. We have to have these feelings and to maintain these kinds of events for the audiences and for us, of course, and for the people. I think that it's a right for the people. So I hope that this pass very quickly and we can remake all the, because we have to remake. I think that, as Andrea, that this is not going to be the same when this pass, but we have to remake, but maintaining or not losing that sense that the festivals or the biennials give to us and to the people. No, I think.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mariana. So Naomi, I don't know if you want to go next.
Sure. Thank you. Well, I mean, like as Mariana just said, I mean, as somebody I've spent my entire life working in the performing arts, like the idea of I miss the crowds, you know, and yet right now to go out into the streets, I don't like the people, but I miss the crowds, you know, and that's a very challenging feeling to have, is to not wanting to be around people as much. So I desperately hope we get to the point where we can, but I do think, you know, we can't go back, and I don't want to go back. There's a turning point, and we have to take advantage of that. And I think, I mean, one of the things that I imagine in the next few years, especially, is that we have great artists in Toronto. We have great artists in Canada who can travel by other means, who don't have to fly, who can come here and work for, I imagine, you know, maybe we have longer residencies. We look at what is the international art that lives in Toronto, which is a very international city in many ways, and that has been, you know, has benefited from the international work that we've brought to Toronto, but I think there's a few years of local work that we can support in a different way. The pandemic has shown, I think, and I'm sure this is everywhere, the precarity of the artist's life, which we've known ourselves, but or those of us, you know, who work with artists or have been artists, like how challenging it is. But I think suddenly our government is recognizing that is, you know, that these are people who live financially in a way that I don't think, you know, many government officials were even aware of. We've been very lucky in Canada that there is emergency funding. People are receiving money at the moment. Some artists are receiving more money at the moment than they do in a regular time. They have more actual security at the moment than they would in an average month. And so there's a lot of lobbying and work going on amongst organizations about how do we argue for the universal basic income, which I think would change the artist's lives entirely in this country and elsewhere. So there's that sort of whole, like, the political, the civic implications of the pandemic on the arts community. But I think, you know, we also, I've had more conversations with more people through this method than around the world than I normally would in a week. I mean, and maybe there are different kinds of collaborations in the future, as curatorial sharing, trusting that, you know, Mariana Aymerich has a beautiful festival at Cervantino, and that if she says the piece is great, well, I will know the piece is great, and we can collaborate with those artists in some way. And there are Canadian artists who can work together with the artists in Mexico. So I think there's also benefits, but that they're going to have there's a different form. And I hope, you know, I do love the spectacle, but maybe this next bit of time is not about that, and it's about a different kind of intimacy, a different kind of engagement and relationships. So yeah, things are going to change. They have to. And that's not all bad.
Yeah. So maybe now, Andrea, you already commented some on this, and I think you had a very interesting point. If you want to share it with us, thank you very much.
Well, I want to complete a little bit the idea about the responsibility. I think that we are some people that have some power in the world of art in terms of organizing, thinking projects, no? And also that I was reading a lot here is a sociologist in Buenos Aires, Maristela Svampa. She talked about an urgent topic that is that humanity is living time of discount. We need to internalize that we are living time of discount. And she talked about an eco-social pact. And I think that from the world of art, we can think about that. Something that Naomi was pointing out in terms of more regional collaboration. I have been listening and participating also in some conversations, no, because the dichotomy is you have to be global, international, or you have to become regional or national. And then, of course, we are very much prepared to say, no, we want to be international, but we can be international. I think that one of the challenging things is our capability to think about the future, not as a unity we have to come back or we have to think about, but to be able to think strategically in terms of making what is possible in the state of emergency in which the world is at this point. Then this dichotomy between being international or provincial, I think that is a false dichotomy that is preconditioning us and not necessary. We have to accept that. And then to think about, what means culture in a community, I think that is urgent to think about what is the way of living of artists, because they are central in our world and our system. Then to work for developing that artists are workers also and need to have a live, to be able to live through what they are doing. No, I think that these are urgent questions more than to think if the world will be international or not, again, as it was. No, then the most productive or urgent way of thinking for me is, what is the place of art in society? What society? The society we have next to, because this is the people that we can feel empathy, help, to ask them, how are you? What I can do for you? Then I think that this is probably the place I am more interested, not to make the question what you need, what I can do for you, than to think if I can sustain the spectacle of the world of art as it was 3 months ago. And she used, Maristela used this notion of an exhausted world, no? I think the world is in a state of emergency, exhausted, and the world of art was in the same point. How it's possible that collectors in an art fair pay $120,000 for a banana stick in a wall 3 times? The system of art is reproducing the inequality of the world, the concentrations of capitals. Then I think that if it's a place we can think as a better future, is to develop a more community relationship in terms of art, to question all this very superficial and world of art in which prices are competing for the front page of the newspapers as a news connected. This frivolity of the world of art, this is something that I think that Biennials could work to contribute. And this means to analyze critically the structure of Biennials as it was conceived and as it's working now, and we are part of that now, then I think that our place probably is strategically in this moment to contribute to this debate. Then I don't know if you want to go to, then the question is existing system of international festivals and biennials. Well, I think that we have to analyze critically, really, this system and to create more affective connections, to use the platforms to learn from this experience we are having now, to explore creative ways and more productive ways. I am participating in this session, and I was participating in several sessions, and I am critical about this format now. You know, a group of people like us talking about what should happen, how is the future, many people pontifying about, well, yes, it will happen this and this, I don't know. Then I think that we have the opportunity also to explore new ways of use the online possibilities, tools, and then it's more a time of thinking and doing research than announcing what it will happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much for those deep thoughts. And Mariana, Pestana, thank you so much for joining us back. I hope your audio is working.
No, it's not. No? Oh. Okay. Aimé, estás en mute.
Hello. Yes. Mariana, I'm so sorry. We cannot hear you still, but maybe if you try with some mutes, with some headphones, that might help.
I think that as soon as we see the microphone icon on Mariana, we should turn it to her. But for now, we keep moving forward. So we can hear you. I'm so sorry. So we're getting close to, we have about 10 minutes left. So one question then, we are talking about what will it be? So in spite of, maybe it's another thing to do, but we have to imagine what, now Mariana, now we have a microphone. If you unmute yourself, try to speak. No.
So tragic.
No, we only see your microphone when you're muted. No. All right. If it comes back, okay. So then, so we are, we have been talking about these things in a way of what will it be? So the question that we had, thinking of the future, however we can think of the future, however much we can, is what. So if we're recognizing that we won't go back to doing the things the way we were doing them, the question then is, what will we have won and what will we have lost by changing? And perhaps we won't know, as Andrea pointed out, perhaps we won't know until we've actually done it, but we are the ones doing it and we have to think of how to do it. So in a way, I think the research, as Andrea points out, that we're doing, we do it as we present these things. So our question with Aimé was, so what do you think you will lose and what will you gain if we're moving to a hybrid and perhaps more, less expensive model of doing things? So if we can start with Mariana Aymerich. Wait, let's see if Pestana can talk.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So sorry, okay. Mariana Aymerich. So Mariana Pestana, really if you want to answer to all of these questions, I don't remember where we lost you, but how are you rethinking your ideas of the festival? What will come back? Yes, please. No, we lost you again. Say something. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, for a second we had you, but I had to talk. Okay. So Mariana Aymerich, well, let's keep trying. So Mariana Aymerich, if you can answer whether that last, what will we gain and what will we lose?
Yeah, I think that we have lost time No, we have lost being close to our loved ones, and we have lost a lot of moments where we could attend the wonders of live performances in all its forms. But definitely we have a wonderful opportunity to reinvent ourselves, to reorganize, and I hope to be better human beings. I hope so. I really hope. And of course, this is an opportunity to see other sizes of the card. You know, it's I'm sorry, Andrea said, I think that we also
Hello.
get the capacity of listening the people in the distance, and the value what is truly important to us beyond the material things. I think in my case, I think in my romantic case, I have learned to live without great expenses. Maybe we can in this moment that we have to share a lot of things with the people. We have to think not to expend a lot of money in festivals or in the biennials. I think that we have to take care of the resources that we have, because we have to share all these things with the people and with the audience. And of course, we want to show the fantastic things that we can show in a performance or in a exhibition hall. But I think that we have to be very responsible of what we are doing with especially when you have public resources. You have to be more responsible that how you are using the resources. And I do not need, but I think that we definitely need to have this human contact and to have the sensation of touching and hugging and kissing. It's very important. But in the events cases, I think that we have to be very responsible, and we have to I mean, in Mexico, we have a lot of festivals. We have a lot of events. We have very talented artists, and maybe we can look to them and have to be part of the festivals in order to be responsible with the resources. In terms of our main topic, I would say that. What we gain is to realize how important are live performances, how much they give us, and how we cannot live without them. No, but the principal thing I think that is to be responsible about the decisions that we have to take, and the things that we have to communicate to the audiences. I think that we win that kind of things of rethink how we make our festivals and our events in the future. Definitely.
Thank you. Let's try Mariana again.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see how long this lasts. But I suppose I think it's important to think what audiences we are doing these events for, right? And I think that this, at the moment, we're also discussing the possibility of digital programs. The way that we're trying to think about it is by defining that, or thinking that we have a local community, and then we have an international spectatorship, and thinking that a community and spectatorship are just very different beasts, and so we want to treat them differently in a way. So to do, we will be doing a digital program, but we hope to be able to combine it with the local actions, like radically local actions, both in terms of the neighborhood and the street and the region of kind of wider region around Turkey. I think that this for me is quite important, because there is in our profession sometimes, a certain illusion I find to think that we may be creating visibility and generating discussion within our own circles, and that's what becomes visible to us. The discussions that happen around circles like this one and other sort of design and art circuits, and sometimes perhaps we may pay less attention because they're not so visible to us, are the immense amounts of circles of community that the projects can generate. And so in our case, we are thinking very actively about how the project
Well, we got an answer. Sorry, computers like to do that, to make us unhappy. All right, so let's move to, so the same question then, Andrea, is for you now. What do we gain, what do we lose in this new world, or what new things come up?
I think that it is okay. Immediately, what we saw, it's an unexpected democratization of the world of art. Many films, many materials that were accessible just for exhibition uses, paying a fee, or accessible through a password that someone gives to you, or that you can see just in exhibition spaces belonging to the collection of a museum, were suddenly liberalized, it's suddenly free for public access. Of course, we don't have to live, I think, in the utopia of an interconnected world, particularly because, as you know, in Latin America, the access to internet connection is not universal. And it happened in many countries that a lot of people has not an effective access. But even so, I think that we suddenly gain a lot having access to a lot of private contents. Then it's a very democratizing movement. Everybody has to show themselves, and in this competition for showing themselves, they were liberalizing or making free a lot of contents and materials. And this is something very positive. And I want to recover also a word of Mariana in terms of community. I think that even if we cannot be physically in touch, we were exploring these new tools in terms of connecting each other. I don't know what kind of community will be effective in the short time. We need to reimagine the notion of community. I don't know how long it will take to have, for example, workshops. How long it will take to have the possibility to move artists from one place to another. And even if I am critical, I think that, to this crazy movement of people traveling around, biennials, exhibitions, museums, all this global tourism. I think that we need to be responsible about what is our responsibility on that. But at the same time, art creates communities. Then this is a very important notion to explore what kind of communities we will be able to design in the future. That's why I said that, the first thing that happened for us with the Biennial is, the fact that we will not be opening in April 16, but it was urgent to know how were the artists, the team, what we can do for them, and then to create an effective connection and be able to imagine strategies to make that, to make these questions and to fill the others through the platforms we have at this point. Then, we lost physical contact. Many authors were writing about, how sense were reclassified through this pandemic, and what you feel that is not possible to do now, you don't know when it will be possible. That is to touch each other, to smell each other. We can see, and even we are living in silence most of the time, or more able to register small sounds that we were not able to listen before. Then this is an exploration also that everyone is immersed in this moment. Then, we lose some things and we are exploring new things. Then I think that this is something that also we win, the opportunity to stop, the opportunity to not to be efficient, to lose the time, not to be trying to be, using all the minutes for showing yourself how effective you are, and to think a little bit more. Then I think that we have now this possibility to have time for thinking.
Thank you very much. So then the last question, I have another podcast going on at the same time in the next room, so I need to answer that question. So Naomi, the same question for you. What will we gain? What will we lose in the new reality? And this will be our final question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's so many things I could bounce off of, but one of the things I keep thinking about is this. One of the things that I feel like we've gained and lost simultaneously is a notion of intimacy. We've lost the intimacy of, as Andrea was just saying, about being physically close to people and about smelling them. And, some people I know have not been with other people at all, and others have been in smaller groups, but we don't have that sort of, and there's an intimacy in live performance. There's an intimacy in being in a gallery one-on-one with a piece. There's so many of the ways we work. But we've also gained a kind of, I think, an intimacy with the people that we are in contact with the possibility of having these very up close conversations with people who we're not in the same rooms with, much more as a matter of course. And I feel like from in terms of what kind of work can come out of this, there's something about the domesticity and that we've all been inside, and that sort of reimagined day-to-day life, and there's something in there in terms of the art that will come from it, and that we'll be used to. We have, they say it takes 3 weeks to make a habit, to change a habit. Like, we have a habit now of not being in large groups. And so when we go back into it, we're also going to have to go in bits and pieces. Like we go to 10 people, we go to 20 people. So the work can reflect that as well. But then the other thing, and just finally, I've been thinking about one of the good things is that a friend said to me the other day, she'd just finished a job on like, she completed a gig she'd had for a couple of years on at the end of March. And she didn't have her next work, and she was going to just sort of do bits and pieces over the summer. And she said, well, now when somebody looks at my resume and they say, what happened to you in April of 2020? Like, she doesn't have to answer that question. And none of us have to answer that question in a way. Like, if we come back completely different, if we have shed these skins of these structures, and if we completely change the way we work, people aren't going to go, well, why did you go and do that? Like, why did you alter yourself so completely from between 2020 and 2021? We have this incredible opportunity to just reimagine and come back completely differently if we want, somewhat differently. That it'll be a really interesting, it's a statement about their values and the importance of where we concentrate our attention going forward, because we will get to pick and choose how we reimagine ourselves. So there's something there, I think, in terms of hope, I guess.
Thank you very much, Naomi, for that beautiful answer, which in a way, I think it works as a great closure to our discussion, and I feel it gives us a little bit of hope. I really hope that you have a chance to share the ideas behind your curatorial proposals, behind your festival programming. And I am sure that, audiences, whether it is virtually, like in the case of like Andrea's fantastic biennial, which I spent, a lot of time perusing, and and whether it's virtual or in person, that we can truly learn from these proposals, and hopefully also in person soon. And thank you very much to all of us, to all of you, and for sharing these ideas with us.
Bye.